Welcome to this edition of The Hill with April Ryan. There's a lot to talk about. Let's get right to it. There is no such thing as absolute immunity for the president or anyone else. That was the decision from a D.C. appeals court. The three-judge panel rejected former President Trump's assertion that he was immune from charges against him for the January 6th insurrection on the nation's capital. Trump promises to take his appeal to the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, the High Court is already hearing arguments on another case involving the former president, whether states can disqualify him from being on their ballots due to his role in the January 6th uprising. Supreme Court hears arguments on the 14th Amendment and Donald Trump. Nevada and Vermont have used the 14th Amendment to kick him off the ballot in their states. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass says it's better to beat Trump at the polls versus taking him off the ballot.
I would be very concerned. We need to beat Trump. We need to just straight out beat him. I worry that if states start taking his name off the ballot, it's going to be far easier for Republican states, far easier for Republican states to not add Biden's name. And then we have absolute chaos.
The 14th Amendment was ratified after the Civil War to keep insurrectionists out of government. It has never been applied to a candidate for president. Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra has some news on a possible cure for sickle cell disease. The disease strikes a large number of people in Black and Hispanic communities. Sickle cell disease can cut the life expectancy by as much as 20 years. The department recently unveiled its cell and gene therapy access model, which aims to increase access to innovative treatments and therapies.
So we've worked out a gene therapy treatment model which would allow folks who are on Medicaid, and as you know, April, Medicaid is for folks who are low income, to also receive these breakthrough treatments. And the way we do that is by telling states, we'll pool together with you to add the leverage of all the people in your state who need that particular care, and we'll negotiate to get the best price for that care for all the states. And so the result will be that hopefully more people who don't always have the highest incomes will have access to the treatment they need. And the first disease that we're attacking with this new innovative therapy is sickle cell disease.
Many pharmaceutical companies have drugs currently available that work to prevent the traffic jam of blood cells that create pain for those people suffering from sickle cell. Actor, singer, reality show star, and activist Miss Lawrence came to the nation's capital this week in advocacy for activism on issues of HIV and AIDS in the Black community.
African American people are still leading in new diagnoses across the country, African American women being at the top as well. And so I'm coming to DC, or I'm in DC. I've partnered with the AIR Agency as well as Black AIDS Institute and a host of other sponsors for this event to bring more awareness about what it is that we need to do as a community to eradicate this epidemic that disproportionately affects our community.
The actor and advocate says we can't just rely on the government. She says we need to start to dismantle the stigma around being HIV positive. A new Pew Research poll found most Black adults say being able to provide for their family and being happy are essential to their definition of success. 60% of Black adults consider themselves at least somewhat successful. 52% of respondents said owning a home is part of that success. There's a very real concern about voter disenchantment in the Democratic Party over young people and Blacks who are feeling like they should sit out the 2024 election. Keith Boykin, author of What Does It Have to Do About Race, says there is a long-term strategy that the Democrats need to take.
The long-term strategy, though, April, is that we have to figure out a way to change the system. But we can't change the system by staying out of the system. That's what they want us to do. That's why they're trying to stop us from voting. That's why they're engaged in voter suppression. That's why Ron DeSantis is arresting Black people who are trying to vote. They want to make Black people not want to vote. And they've got a lot of Black people, unfortunately, who they've co-opted into this campaign, rappers and athletes and others who are expressing the same frustratingly inaccurate message about why voting doesn't matter. So what's the alternative? Sit around and do nothing and let white people who do vote, why are they voting if voting is so not important? They know it's important. They know that is a tactic for them to stay in power. And we are teaching ourselves, or being taught to teach ourselves, that we should disengage from the very process of power in which white people are engaged in to maintain their power. What does that say to us about how we have been twisted into believing that this is not the answer?
Boykin says getting people to vote is a two-tier strategy. He just spoke of the long-term strategy. However, in the short term, he says voters have to be engaged in the election process from the bottom to the top. Finally, we say goodbye to a legend, the Black Eagle. SiriusXM's host, Joe Madison, passed away last week. In 2022, I talked with my friend about his approach to the success of his Urban View radio show. He was an activist, author, radio host, husband, father, grandfather, and friend.
They want to get on. People talk. That's what we are supposed to have them do. But then the question is, I always ask the question, then, okay, what are you going to do about it? Because everybody can do something. And most people, to be honest, they don't do anything. And so that's why I say, it's about activism. When you finish talking, go ahead, be reasonable, be smart. Just don't say things for shock value.
Farewell, Joe Madison, the Black Eagle. Soar high and rest in power. That's it for another edition of The Hill with April Ryan. Tune in next time right here for more news and information for us and about us. Until next time, peace.